We're going to get started. You're in this session visualizing course data, that's activity data using VizIT or VizIT. If any of you have done a web search online to figure out what is VizIT, it's not the thing you've found, okay? So this is actually an internal term. It's just a set of dashboards that we have created at UBC to visualize course activity data in a way that we think is more effective for our course teams and our course instructors. So this is a presentation that we're giving to the two of us. My name is Derek White. This is Pan Luo. So we're doing this presentation, but we're not the primary people who have actually architected these sets of visualizations. So Ido Roll, who's the first picture you see here, it's really his vision mostly for this work, so I need to give credit to him. So Katrina did most of the early work in terms of the dashboard creation. Scott did some of the work around the pipeline pieces. And then Justin, who's the next person there, has been doing most of the work subsequent to that. So we're primarily presenting work that other people have done, although Pan has been involved in doing some of the development work as well. So this is supposed to show you a typical course. So you have a set of students, you have an instructor, you have a course that runs on a computer, the instructor designs the course, the support of that course is done facilitated via the online course and its set of course tools. The students engage with the course and reports are given back to the instructor to support them in facilitating the course and ultimately in redesigning the course as well. So now let's think about this in the MOOC context. So the students are engaging as normal, reports are given back to the instructor, and we're trying to facilitate the course. But in a MOOC, is a MOOC the same sort of thing as a typical classroom course? So think about the MOOC that you have been most engaged in. Did you interact with learners in any other way in your course? Did you get what you wanted out of the experience in the course? Did you pass the course? Was that important for you to pass the course? Did you complete the course? So in many ways, we're suggesting that a MOOC in many ways is a different paradigm than a typical classroom course. So we know, of course, that in most cases learning is a solitary, in a MOOC context, is a solitary journey. Obviously, we're doing a bunch of things to try to facilitate greater degrees of interaction, but for the large number of people, it is in fact a solitary course, and we know the very small percentages of people who actually participate in the discussions, for example. So we're suggesting that when you're looking at the reports that are coming out of the system to the instructor to support the process of helping the students in the course, they need to understand this particular context. So on average, only 7% of people, at least according to the stats that Ido has, 7% of people actually complete a course. But is that really a problem? In many ways, in a MOOC context, the course is treated for many people as more of a learning resource than it is a course that they need to complete. That's not necessarily the goal that they have. So traditional metrics may not be the most useful. Look at this for an example. So this is looking at course activity over time. But think about that in a self-paced course. This really doesn't mean anything. We need something more aligned to course time rather than to just chronological time. So you see this peak that you can see in the middle there. That's actually just got to do with the fact that it was a holiday, not to do with something that's actually happening inside the course. So we need different sorts of metrics. This is just a small example actually here, but this is an example of metrics that come out of the multi-select question and answer, multi-choice sort of question type. And this shows you the proportions of people who answered it correctly by selecting all the different things correctly. But what we really want to see is which of the options that they actually got wrong. So this is some of the things. So this is sort of the problem statement for us. So we wanted to create an instructor-facing dashboard that acknowledges the fact that we have diverse learners and goals. They have different intents. They don't all necessarily want to pass the course. They have different backgrounds. And there's a higher degree of learner agency. There's a higher level of them making decisions over their own learning. a dashboard that offers meaningful measures of learning and provides information, not data, something that they can see very quickly what it means. And we need an institutional view so we can actually compare courses. And this is for a couple of reasons. One is because MOOCs are a type of course that we have little experience in. So it's actually useful to see patterns across courses to understand how they can be successful. So these are some of the design principles we have. So first is just simply to say we wanted to keep all these pieces together: course design, data science, and learning sciences. So actionable information, so information that's provided that somebody can do something about, something which provides information about engagement but also provides information about the course structure at the same time, provides the big picture and details. So when it does provide details, it puts it in the context of something larger. And semantic information is just basically to say that something people can understand very quickly. So those are the design principles, and now I'm going to hand it over to Pan.
Okay, so this is the data flow that the whole process that we're using. So if you know, so edX is doing the daily dump for the data streaming activities data to Amazon. So we are using edX to BigQuery, which is developed by MIT Isaac Chang and Daniel Seaton, and also the community. There are a few other contributors. So big thanks for them, because they have done a very good job moving all the data into BigQuery. So our work is based on that. So once data is inside the BigQuery, we use the tool called VizIT. It's a tool that doing query from BigQuery and then generating different charts, which you will see later. This is one of the example charts describing the course structure. Then we present those charts to the course team, instructor, and course builder. So they look at the charts to see if there's any problem or if they can identify any thing from the charts that they can can be used to improve the course. So then they use those feedback to improve the course in the next run. So I'll give you some context. So the charts I'm going to show are coming from the 3 course. So introduction to the marketing. So it's an introductory course. And also climate change. It's also an introductory course to the science. And also the 3rd course is computer science course. It's a very intensive course. You can see through the course structure graph I'm going to show you later. Okay. So this is a chart you saw in the previous slides. In the VizIT, we try to identify a problem, and then we try to solve the problem by using querying the data and generating a charts. So in the charts, you will see what kind of problem it is trying to solve, and some details. So this is a course structure chart. So you will see a different module listed here in the course, and in each module you will have you will see different component. So for example, purple showing the video, blue is showing the graded problem, etc. So you can easily see what kind of component in the course in each module. And if you hover over to the each bar, you will see the detailed numbers: 20 videos, 12 graded problems.
So one of the things that something like this does for us immediately is it shows you how imbalanced in this particular course the different modules are.
Yep.
So you've got a whole bunch of activity in some modules, and it's sort of the person who set this up, you can see they sort of run out of energy later on. So the first thing it does is it provides that clarity, which is very different than if you think about it in a course context, in an on-campus context. It's pretty easy to sort of pace out your class. But in a MOOC, it's a little bit different. So this has been useful for some of our instructors to actually see a visual picture of how their course is structured overall.
Yep. So this is also a course structure chart with a number of students of the engagement. So you can see the same color representing the same component type from the previous chart. The height of the bar is showing the number of students engaged in with that component. So the black one is the chart, is the chapter. So you can see the first one is all the students interacted with that chapter. But you can see different length of the different height of the bar. So, for example, this one shows little engagement with I think blue, green is let me double check. Green is a self-test. So, not many students doing the self-test, but more students are doing the graded problems. So this graph, we try to answer a question. What's the overall structure of my course? So when the instructor looking at this chart, they can easily see the structure of the course, different modules, and how many components in the module. So this is I think this is a similar problem with as the previous charts. So the charts, the module is not very balanced. You can see.
But actually, because it actually shows you engagement, so it actually addresses this issue of course time as well, because actually each of the heights are to do with how much engagement is happening at a specific place in the course. So it helps us to ask the question, why is it that there's so little people who engage in those particular pieces, and it suggests that the students don't see the same level of interest in those, or some little value in them. So we can ask the question, is there something we need to do about the component piece?
Yep. And how we can improve it. So this chart you can see is a marketing course. So this one is a climate change course, and this one is a marketing course. So this course you can see have far less component compared to the previous one. It has pretty consistent engagement. So towards the end. And so the student likes the problems, so they are doing the problems pretty consistently. So you can see the height of the bars. So next one is the computer science course I mentioned. So it's a pretty intensive course. You can tell by looking at the chart. So it has more component in each chapter. And the retention rate is not very good, because you can see it's going like smaller and smaller towards the end. So using those charts, you can easily see what's happening in the course. So this one is showing you top 5 problems that you have in the course that have least success rate. So we're trying to answer a question that what problem did learners struggle with the most? So by looking at the top 5 problems, then you can see which option most of the so this one is the correct one, and those ones are the incorrect ones. So you can see the student are struggling with, for example, this one. There are a lot of them choosing the first one. So you can tell if you need to improve your course content, or if you need to put more focus on the content for this question or this problem. So then course team can improve the course by looking at this chart. So this is a student involvement chart. So this one shows you different types of students. So you can see registered student has the most, almost 3,000 students. And sample means they did at least one action in the course. And the involved is like more than 15 minutes in the course. And the passed is more than 50% of the grade. So verified is very clear, self-explanatory. Okay, so those 4 charts are based on the first one. So they are showing different types of student involvement. So the first one is showing how many time students spend in the course for each different type. So you can see for the past student, they spend more than 8 hours in the course. And the second one showing how many days they spend in the course. So the same past has spent lots of time in the course in order to get past to the course. The third one is showing the number of student posts. So when they are using the discussion form, they post a question or answer the question. So they are counted here. So if you look at the charts, it seems like sampled and involved students are posting lots of questions in the discussion forum. And the last one is number of events that triggered by the student. So whether they clicked on the web page or they did a question. So those kind of events are triggered by the student. So the blue one is showing the number of the problem students have tried. So if they try to answer a question or in the course, then there will be one event for the student. And the orange one showing the number of students, number of the video they watched. So this graph is also showing the student involvement, but across the courses. So you can see different courses are put together. So course team can compare and identify the problem. So if we look at the marketing course, so the first one, the marketing course, looks like the student have to do much less in order to pass, because if you see the number of days and the time they spend, they are like lighter. So it means they don't need to spend more time in the course in order to pass. And also for the climate change course, you can see it's lighter here. So this column is showing the number of the student has posted. So it means the student are posting less in the course. So course team may need to figure out a way to encourage students to post more and do more engagement in the discussion forum. So this is another chart showing the student engagement. It's like a heat map. So it has several areas we can focus on. So the horizontal is a number of the videos they watched, and the vertical is a number of the percentage of the problem they've tried. So in this area, it's a minimal engagement, so they tried only a few video and few problems. And so the normal student will go through this linear progression. So they will watch the video and then do the problem. So then they complete the course. So there are the next chart I will show you. You can see there are students only doing the video, and there are students only doing the problems. So and the majority of the students are going through this linear progression. So if you see a lot of students just doing, for example, problems, then it means there's some problem with the videos because they are not watching videos. Then you can focus on how to improve those videos. Yeah, also vice versa.
But it also does speak, and you're going to show some examples in a minute. If you show the next slide. Actually, I'll go back, and it's not on that slide. So it also speaks to the fact that people want different things out of courses. So there are significant proportions of people who are only interested in watching videos, and there are significant proportions of people who are only interested in doing the assessments. And if you look at the patterns across different courses, then it can be very different. But it shows that these different cohorts of students may actually be getting exactly what they want out of a course, but they have different purpose and different value proposition that they have for doing the course.
Yep. Okay. So this chart showing trying to answer the value of the course. So the charts describes the time between the first time access and the last time access to the course for the student. So you can see in this chart there are some activities for the marketing course after more than 6 months. So which means the student coming back to the course even after the course already finished, and they are coming back either for more information or getting back to their past discussion. So it means the course still providing the value to the student after 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll head back to Derek.
Okay, so just really quickly, so that's just a quick overview of most of the visualizations we currently have. We're doing some additional work now, so some stuff around displaying visualizations of forum discussions, looking at sentiment analysis and word clouds and things like that. We don't actually have anything at the moment on page view, so most of the stuff that we're looking at is video participation and assessments, as well as the involvement in terms of going into modules. So we're also going to look at page views, transition information. So looking at the pattern of behavior, and so if a student enters into a course, do they jump from one part to another part? What's the last part they were in before they dropped a course? Where do students pick up? Those things that we're going to be doing next. Doing some filtering by cohort groups, so the ability to see the same graphs and actually compare on the basis if you filter out, for example, all the paying students or people with a particular in this case, non-speaking students, or something that relates to their personal demographics. And then we're continuing doing work on cleanup and in terms of legends and the labels as well. So really quickly, in terms of a summary, and then we can talk about some questions. I went the wrong way. Still going the wrong way. Turn it up the right way. So we're asking the question whether there is actually a paradigm shift when we're thinking about MOOCs to a typical online course. Is it a course to be completed, or is it just a resource? Is that actually something which is more valuable for people? So if in fact there is a paradigm shift, then we need to have reports that are given to the instructor that's actually, or to the course team, that are valuable for them in context of that learning context. So value may be measured differently. So we looked at for example, the visualization that saw that people are returning to the course after the course is complete. So value may be measured differently. We need to provide visualizations for that. And as I said before, comparative visualization is useful, particularly when you're dealing with this new dynamic, this new paradigm of a MOOC context. And this is just some comments that we're also bringing this back to our course. So we actually run quite a lot of on-campus courses using the edX platform as well. So we're doing the same set of visualizations for them, and we're really exploring to see what that means for the campus courses. So again, asking our question whether there is actually a cohorts of users who see different value propositions in the course, asking questions about their agencies, and then looking at what a meaningful assessment. So looking at if people are not doing the assessments or not, why it is, and asking those sorts of questions. So that's pretty much it from us. So questions, and all the code is there on GitHub, so it's all open source, of course. If you're interested in a live demo, by the way, we're happy to give you that as well. So, questions? Yes?
How easy is it to deploy the VizIT? How is it easy to deploy your edX to BigQuery software? And what's the server load when you use edX to BigQuery? You experience a high load on the server, and then the data is out on Google platform, and then you can use it.
So the first question, we are trying to package everything into one container, so we're trying to use container technology. So we will, right now the code is not packaged yet, so we're trying to package everything into one container so that you can just run the container, just type a few commands. So you can just load the data into BigQuery and then run VizIT to generate the graphs. But because right now there's a few components working together, so if you want deploy right now, you need to run some command, deploy the edX to BigQuery first, and move the data into BigQuery and then run VizIT. For VizIT, it's just running a command. Yeah, but you need to install some dependencies. Yeah, but once we get to the container, so you don't need to worry about the dependencies. You just run the command.
Yeah, but just a bit to clarify, the edX to BigQuery is not something that we've done, right?
Yeah,
so we're just utilizing that. So once it's up there in the environment, then we're generating or automated the process of generating these dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the dashboards, you read them from where? From Google platform?
Yes. Yes.
Then you have templates, and then you can visualize whatever you like.
Well, the visualization, they're a set of, I mean, they're scripted visualizations, so they're scripted from that. So they're generated automatically. We're just adding additional ones as we go along. So it's not customizable other than coding. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
The question I had was similar, because we are trying to run what we call blended MOOCs courses with some 100 institutions participating in the same course. And individual teachers would like to know these answers to these questions for their own cohorts. Yep. So would it be possible to apply this visualization if I have cohort-specific events collected?
Right now, I don't think so. It's generated the graph, the charts course by course.
Correct.
So,
but we can surely use your code.
Yes.
And if we write modified code to work with the events, then we should be able to.
Yeah, so you just need to modify the query, like just separate them by cohorts.
We'll be happy to put our code with your code in GitHub.
Yeah, we'll be happy to get the PRs.
We do have some data science students at the moment working on the pieces, the ability to filter out based on different parameters. So that will be something which will actually be user-facing rather than something which is just on the code. So that piece will have parameters. Yep.
I thought you said the code was available.
Yes.
I'm looking at that URL, and when I see screenshots.
That's true, actually. That's a screenshot, that one there.
Let me double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's that the edX to BigQuery code should be open source.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's open source. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
It seems to me that. Sorry. Yeah, it seems to me that the data visualization only do for the group profile, right? Do you have an individual student profile?
No, we're not doing individual students.
You're not doing individual profile.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Is it because of the number of students, or is it because of
so
to visualize individual student behavior?
I guess it's because the problem statement at the beginning was how do we support instructional teams to the primary question on this is how do we support instructional teams to better facilitate the courses. So I didn't explain this at the beginning, but VizIT actually stands for Course Visualization for Instructional Teams. So that was our problem statement. So to supporting the overall course. I can't remember the other thing I was going to say. Sorry, but that's the primary reason. That was the problem statement at the beginning. I was going to point out that, of course, some of the visualizations aren't simply about the facilitation piece. They're also about the design piece as well. So they're helping us understand how we redesign our courses. Time. We have finished. No time for questions. We'll talk.
Sorry, just a very quick one. Has there been, and you may have just answered this, but has there been an appetite from learners for additional metrics and visuals that guide them along their progress?
We just haven't tried to address that question yet. So
Absolutely.
that would be another thing
Sure
to look
thing.
at.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.